Ready? So I'm gonna invite Amy to have our fireside chat. Please welcome Amy.
Thank you so much.
I have a cheat sheet here.
A cheat sheet. That's good.
So I'm very honored to have this fireside chat with you. Amy, Loutfi, I let you in a second to introduce yourself, but I wanted to do also a brief introduction and particularly also tell you why I am very much looking forward to this conversation. I'm going to share with you a couple of reasons. First of all, Amy is a professor at Örebro University, and also she's also a program director at WASP AI. You're going to learn more about WASP, but what I would like to share now is WASP is by far the largest individual research program in Sweden that is funding innovations, foundation research, and tries also to bridge the gap of bringing research to industry. And it has been going on for many years. Amy will tell us more. But basically, it has a huge impact on education, our AI ecosystem in Sweden, and we women in data science, AI, and ML are a big part of this ecosystem. So I can't think of a better guest to have here in Fireside Chat to tell us more about WASP and also AI in Sweden. And I'm going to share also second a personal note. So I've met Amy for the first time back in 2009. Time flies.
Yeah,
I moved to Sweden to study my PhD in Örebro University, and Amy was my co-advisor. It's an honor to have her here, and I shared my way into research through her mentorship. What probably we never talked about it, but is also during ups and downs of PhD studies. I think I learned a lot from Amy on a passion. I grew a passion for industry, and also learned to overcome a bit on my imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I'm gonna stop here and let you to tell us about your journey and yourself and how you got here.
Right. First of all, I'm looking forward very much to our discussions. And like you said, so I have a professorship both at Örebro University and Linköping University. And I've been working in the field of AI, particularly the integration of AI and robotics now for 25 years. As you say, time flies sometimes. And quite recently, so from the 1st of January this year, I became the program director of WASP, and you presented what WASP is. And I think, being such a large program, I think there are so many different aspects of WASP that one could lift, particularly here. But one of the aspects that I'm most proud of is that WASP is really working to build the next generation of researchers. So the program in size is about 6.5 billion Swedish kroner. It's been going since 2015. And the aim is to graduate 700 PhD students. And we are well on our way. We have 500 today in the program. And they are in AI, autonomous systems, and software. But my sort of journey into Sweden started in 1999, when I also, very much like you, in 2009, came to Örebro to do my PhD. And I was born and raised in Canada, and like many people in Canada and in North America, when you're in universities, it's almost like a rite of passage to do a year abroad in Europe. And a lot of people ask me, how did you end up in Örebro of all places? And there's actually a very, very logical reason behind it. So I was in my third year studying to be an electrical engineer, and they opened up all the positions to study abroad. And I really had my heart set on going to Spain. But all the places in Spain were full. And alphabetically, after Spain came Sweden, and there were lots and lots of places left. And I just sort of picked something randomly. So I did my PhD in Örebro. I really enjoyed the environment, and it's a very international environment, as you know. But then I decided, when I had the opportunity to do a postdoc, I went to Spain. So I had that Spanish experience. So I was very happy about that. But I missed Sweden quite a lot. And Sweden is a very special country also when it comes to doing research, because it's a country that has a lot of funding for research. It's a country that has things like, they call it sometimes the teacher's exception or the professor's privilege, which basically means that if you have your ideas, they really are yours. Lärarundantag in Swedish. And the Swedish sort of setting in Sweden is also a very international one. So it's like coming to a microcosm of the world when you're in Sweden. So I really wanted to come back, and I had the chance to come back. And one of the first things I did when I came back was supervise you, which was great. So that is a bit my journey, both when it comes to what I'm doing now, which is working with this very large program, doing that about 40% of my time. 60% of my time, I still have a foot into research, and sort of growing up, I think, quite a bit in Sweden as a researcher.
Nice to hear that. Thanks for sharing. I wanted to ask you also like some fun facts.
Yeah, fun facts.
You shared one, but I mean, if you feel comfortable to share another one.
Could I share another fun fact? Okay, I'll share a fun fact about you. This is a fireside chat. We don't have a fire anywhere.
There's a fire there.
Yeah, I'll share a fun fact about you, because I don't know if you've seen that movie Inside Out, that movie by Pixar, and they talk about these things like the first movie talks about core memories, right? And I have a very clear core memory of you when we first started to interact together, and we did a lot of walking and talking. I don't know if you remember that, but we would often not sit down, but we would go walk somewhere on campus and talk about things. And I remember you were telling me about how you think when it comes to approaching different challenges and different things that maybe are difficult in life. And at that point, you mentioned, as we were walking, how you like to really see paths, right? That you need to see the path so that you know, okay, well, there's one corridor and there's that path, and there's one corridor and there's that path. And then in that way, you can kind of plan and do exploration. And the fun fact here is that when you said that, I started to think about your research and how your research was very much about that, right? You did a lot of things like sensor planning. And what I realize is that research is me-search. If you think about what people research on and you really look at who they are, they almost tend to fuse aspects of their identity with what they research about. So for example, many of the people I know who do research in robotics, who look at localization, they tend to have the worst sense of localization themselves.
I remember those.
The AI researchers I know that work on planning and scheduling are absolute rubbish at planning and scheduling their own lives, right? And I really think that there's something in that, right? You're really attracted to those areas and those fields that are somehow connected to your identity. So that's my fun fact. I don't know if it's so fun.
No, thanks. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. I want to jump into WASP AI because I promised that we talk about it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more and also the parts that like you feel more passionate about?
Yeah. So first of all, it's just WASP, which stands for Wallenberg AI Autonomous Systems and Software Program. And it has these different areas, which is AI, autonomous systems and software, but being such a longitudinal program, it also has to adapt a little bit with time. So we have some aspects of cybersecurity. And I would say AI is everywhere, right? And it's both a horizontal, which means that people look at the interaction or intersection between AI and software, but it's also very much a vertical, which is really sort of deep diving into the specifics of AI, particularly machine learning. I mentioned the number of PhD students, and that has been a target. Actually, the initial target was 600. We look like we're going to beat that target and reach it very soon, around 500. Also, the ambition has been to create new research groups with a target of 80 new research groups in Sweden, and we're around 75 today. And these research groups are people that we really want to recruit, either from outside, but also people within Sweden who have a very strong potential to drive research and build a cluster of people around them. Then there are other types of instruments. You mentioned working with industry and academia. We do that in what we call research arenas.
Yes.
And there are a couple of research arenas. There's one on media and language, which brings together kind of the media and language community in Sweden, both in terms of academia and industry. We have a research arena on public safety, which is very much about autonomous systems and systems of systems. There's one on robotics, and we also have one on machine learning ops, which looks very much at large data and looks at things like anomaly detection. And there's a new research arena that started in January on medicine, and that's going to bring together, for example, AstraZeneca and a lot of the research that's being done in generative AI in terms of, for example, drug discovery. So these research arenas are places where industry and academia come together. They discuss, they share tools and tool sets, and they also try and build a community around a particular domain. But with that said, you know, a program as large as WASP really relies on that community spirit, and it relies on the community spirit that is also coming from many researchers who are sort of just volunteering their time to help review things, to help participate in networking and also in events, but also for many people within industry. We have, for example, a very large conference that happens in the fall called Academia and Industry Days. And we also have a number of other events. But the community is really important. It really is a program about people. And that means we have to look at people. And one of the things we realized is that when we were sort of looking at this community, we were looking at this field, it's extremely important to also look at diversity and inclusion. And when we were trying to build up the new groups, particularly the ones in machine learning, we had about 15 or so new groups that were being built up. And these were younger researchers, so what we would say assistant professor levels, that would come and get a very nice recruitment package. They get 2 PhD students, 2 postdocs, and we really said, go ahead, do something. And they were all male. And we thought, you know, something has to be done. We have to be very proactive to change this landscape. Now, universities have a lot of constraints on them because universities, being fairly also rigid organizations, can't just do anything. But as a program, we can really encourage and not only try and keep up at par, but we set the bar really high. So we basically said to the universities that we are willing to fund recruitments of people of the underrepresented gender. And it's amazing, if you have funding, the universities all of a sudden find solutions. So we created a number of positions. I think at that time it was 6 positions. And although that doesn't sound like a lot, we have to remember these are for new research groups. We were able to fill them. We were able to sort of spread them out around the country. And now we're in sort of our second round, and it's not only for AIs for all the areas that WASP addresses. And we also have the ability that if we find very good people who are wanting to establish their research in Sweden and are of the underrepresented gender, we find opportunities to make it happen.
It's really great to hear that. I mean, I mentioned about imposter syndrome. It's like there are a lot of people from underrepresented groups that they lack the confidence and unsure about opportunities and possibilities, though having the merit. And when they are like, when universities starting looking for like, expanding their pool and looking at those candidates, they find great opportunities, and like, we get a better diverse talent coming in.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's also the aspects as well that if you look at how PhD education, particularly in computer science in Sweden looks today, there's a lot of people coming from abroad who come to Sweden and we have to also work proactively to make sure that, what they've contributed with, they can remain in Sweden and keep working with it. So, yeah. And you stayed.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I think it's an interesting journey. It's like, because I've always tried to stay in a connection with the university, and from industry perspective, I think it used to be difficult at the beginning, but it's with the opportunities of like with research arenas now we are part of the media and language research arena. There are possibilities to have industrial PhD students. I currently have 2/3 in my team. And we also get to work with researchers. They, from academia side, they have the incentive, they have the bandwidth, given the funding, to collaborate with us. We come with a lot of data and like, opportunities and questions that enables us to learn. And I think it's quite exciting. It's like to look at from the two sides to problems.
Yeah. And I think if I would sort of try and pinpoint some of the things, particularly for much more for the next generation, for the younger generation, what are the things to think about or be aware of? I would definitely say mobility is on the rise.
Yeah.
And it's not about that older mobility, which means that once you've done your degree in one place, you need to sort of almost flee the country and then do a degree or do something else somewhere else, but rather the mobility that occurs between academia and industry.
Yeah,
I think we're going to see much more of that. I know in the we have the research and innovation bill. It's something that the government goes out with. They have talked about sort of split employments. This is something that's been done in the field of medicine for quite some time, that you may have a clinician who is employed at the region or at a hospital, but then maybe 50% at a university. The new research and innovation bill wants to see that everywhere.
Oh, that's great.
So I think the opportunities for having one foot in industry and one foot in academia, particularly as sort of a younger researcher, I think that those opportunities will exist.
Because that enables to get a lot of context about like, problems and applications and opportunities to work together and also feel comfortable that you are connected to both sides.
Exactly.
But let me ask you a question. Like you mentioned a lot about like, early career in academia. In our audience, we have a lot of students. We also have a lot of people coming from industry, more senior, that are also interested in this aspect of maybe sometimes going back to academia or like, stay connected with academia. What are your advice for these two groups, like, early careers and also those in industry, more senior, that they would like to stay connected with these opportunities?
So I think one thing is this, just as we talked about before, that it's not either or. You don't. We've always talked about academia, industry, and I think now the line between them is getting more and more blurred. And my advice is to see it very blurred.
Yeah.
Even though, of course, there are different progressions within these two different realities, if you can try and find a way to harmonize it, I think that's very good. And I think one way is to make sure industry also recognizes and appreciates that academic flavor to your career. And at the same time, academia needs to also give more merit to that industrial flavor to the academic career. The other thing is lifelong learning. I think this is really important. We talked before we were sitting here about continuous learning for robots, but that was something different. But I think for humans, it's equally important.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to be a bit better at setting aside time to continually update our own knowledge, because things move extraordinarily fast at this moment. And for those of you who may be in the audience who are working with innovation, this is also something that's moving incredibly fast. We talk about those TRL levels, but I think AI is shattering the TRL levels.
Yeah, exactly.
You go from 1 to 6 in extraordinary speed. And we have to keep up to date and up to speed, and spend a lot of time doing that. I think is something that I would advise anyone who is sort of just up and coming in their career.
One thing that, in my experience, has been useful is we have been inviting guests from academia to come in. We explain the problems that we are working on, and then, they also offer us lecture or a course on the topic, and it has been fantastic to scale the learning on those specialized topics in our teams. So I hope to see more of those too.
Yeah, but I also think, it's very mutual. But if one wants to talk about experts, the expertise is both in academia and industry. I think we need to both be better at sort of learning in the flow of work. We need to both be better at making all of the implicit ways that we learn much more explicit. Because, how many of us go onto YouTube to try and figure out how to do something? It's like in the movie The Matrix, old movie. But I realize I'm feeling very dated when I'm on this stage. When, it goes into the Matrix and then he comes out and he says, now I know Kung Fu, right? And it's almost the same thing. We go online, we try and get as much information as we possibly can. And somehow we feel comfortable even taking that new knowledge and applying it without anyone certifying it, right? Now, one could argue if that's good or bad, but the point is that's what we're doing to learn. And I think we need to be better at making those implicit ways of learning much more explicit in both our sectors.
So we talked about learning. I'm going to pivot from here to something relevant to our panel, which you will join us there too. And that's about career and how, it's related to career, but I'm wondering, there's a lot of stress going on, but also a lot of resources and knowledge out there about generative AI and new products, new solutions, new things for learning, a lot of discussion about how the future of work will be, and then how the future of AI will be. And being involved in WASP program and being involved in AI for 20 years now, over 20 years, 25 years, sorry. How do you see the future? We used to talk about 10 years, 15 years, but I'm asking you 5 years from now.
Okay. So first of all, one thing I do want to say, and I guess if there are people who have been looking into AI for a long time, you may also agree with this, that we have this wonderful ability to rename old things.
Yeah. True.
So, now everyone's talking about agentic AI, wow, and it's multi-agent systems. And we talk about embodied AI, and it's a lot of cognitive robotics being kind of repositioned. So there is these streams that get fancy new labels, but you can recognize them as areas where there's been a lot of research being done for quite some time. And so I always take things with a little bit of a grain of salt in terms of saying that everything is going to be radically changed in the next 5 years. I don't think so. I think we're going to see a lot of the things we've been working on, but perhaps with different names or different ways that we look at them. When it comes to the impact of these technologies on work, I think that it's going to be significant. It's going to change the way in which we work. And a lot of research supports that. It's also going to change the way in which we think. And I think there should be more research also looking at the impact of AI on thought. How do we do our thought processes? Now, can we cope with it? I am an optimist. And I mean, you can look at many things and see how technologies and how they've impacted society. We tend to go back to industrialism and industrialization when we talk about AI. I think we should actually go back to much further back when we look at language and how, for example, language and written language has impacted society, because I think AI is that transformational. And I think that we should study how AI impacts work. But if I can get a little bit out of my researcher hat and just be a human being for a moment, I think it's also important for us as individuals to ask ourselves, who are we if we are not laborers? How often in this conference, when you meet someone, you're shaking their hand and you say, hi, what do you do? Where do you work? And I think it's a very important exercise, particularly now with everything that's going on, with everything that's happening with technology, to answer that question. If you are not a laborer, who are you? And I think that can help offer a little bit of a compass about how one should reason going forward.
Yeah, very good point. We are getting to countdown of the timer.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go back to the talk of exploration and exploitation that you told about me, and I think it feels like the landscape of this exploration and exploitation is changing, and we are learning on how to make our way with the knowledge that we are gaining to explore this new landscape. And vehicles such as WASP is a great opportunity within Sweden to help us with that. Final remarks, anything that you would like to share?
No, final remarks. I was just thinking, when we talk about research, exploration, exploitation, but you also did your PhD on robots that smell.
Yes.
Right? So I wonder how that connects to things.
I think, I don't know, it's you find different, again, I'm talking about vehicles, but really different, it's whole life is about exploration, exploitation, in my opinion. And then you can apply it on different things. One of them could be sense of a smell and figuring out if there's a gas leakage here or not.
Right.
Or helping your kids to learn how to smell and sniff things properly and figure out and guess what they are, which is what I do these days.
Yeah. Or the different modalities, which we heard about.
Yes,
right?
yes,
which is,
exactly. It's just those input data, sensory data is changing. Methodologies are new methodologies coming into place, but all of them enable us to be able to do at the end that problem solving.
Right.
And I think that's what I took away from my PhD studies, how to solve problems.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's hard to come up with sort of one sentence to round it all off, but I think if I would say anything, I would say that there are ample opportunities for learning and for growth in Sweden, and for really navigating between academia and industry. And I think it's fantastic that you have this kind of event where we can lift some of them.
Thanks a lot, Amy. We're going to hear more
Yes.
in the panel from you too. And
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you.